Welcome to Gamechangers, episode 3. We've got Mike Craddock from NewGen, formerly Kairos. And let's go for it. It's great to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
No, appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. So looking forward to trying.
Good setup, isn't it?
Yeah, that's nice.
Cool. So let's dive straight in. So tell me a bit about your story, like right from the beginning, from pro gamer days, and then how you got into Kairos NewGen, and where you are now.
Yeah, so I just thought I was amazing at Call of Duty. Basically, I left, I was pretty good.
Really? Which one did you like?
I started on Black Ops 1,
okay.
MW2. So when I was like 17, I was just grinding that.
Yeah.
And then I just watched some videos on the internet. I was like, I think I can do this as well. Just started posting online, managed to build up a little audience, and then actually turned into a full-time job for about 4 years. So much to my parents' confusion, that managed to turn into a full-time job. So did YouTube full-time, then started playing professional Call of Duty, realised probably wasn't as much money in it, so I went back to YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, not in 2013.
Because I would think, or anyone would think, 2013, right?
Yeah.
So you're just on the cusp, like at the beginning of it, right?
Too early.
Right, okay.
You know, so we spotted the trend, but we were too early. So I went back to YouTube, but that really allowed us to build a lot of relationships. Like all my friendship circle were YouTubers. We knew a lot of brands. Like I was personally working with, Activision, Xbox and Ubisoft. And that's how like my 4 or 5 years started. And then we just started managing like friends really. And it was Chris, who's my co-founder. He approached me with a business idea. I liked the concept, but it's more like Twitter focused then.
Okay.
And I said, I'm a YouTuber. I know YouTube. If we're going to do this, this is how we should do it. And it's more YouTube focused. So how we started, we just started managing a lot of my friends. So a lot of the FIFA YouTubers back then, we started managing them in 2015. Quickly realized in about a year, we were more of an agency rather than a talent management company. So that kind of transitioned. So that's the foundation of how we started. And that was back in 2015 now, so 9 years ago. It's been a journey to say the least.
Has the 9 years felt long, short, crazy?
It's a bit of a weird, it hasn't really felt like 9 years.
Right.
I still feel like I'm in year 4 or year 5 in reality. So we're like really mature. Like now as an agency, we're probably one of the ones that have been going around the longest, even though we're less than 10 years old. But it doesn't really feel like it. And I still feel like we're learning so much. The market's moving. But actually though, when you take a step out, you go, oh, we have done quite well. It's quite hard to see that when you're so involved in the day to day, but it's flew by. Like life's flying by as it is.
I bet. And how many like headcount are you now?
97 ish. Goes obviously up and down naturally slightly depending on the quarter as well, but
pretty big.
We went too big in COVID.
Interesting.
And like the growth was just insane.
So was that higher than what it was now?
Yeah, we were at 140 at one point.
Really?
Which was unsustainable. And we just had this like double effect, right? Because COVID happened, all the marketing dollars went from like traditional into social and digital. So we got the benefit of that. But then also everyone went into gaming. So we got a double benefit. And we were just winning like everything. But it was just like uncontrolled chaos, just trying to deliver that work. And we just like, also our standards of work started to slip and some processes started to slip. And we were like, okay, we need to dial this back a little bit. Like we need to go put processes back in our business, get the quality of work better. So that's also a big focus of ours last 2 years. But if we're at a healthy and sustainable position.
That's
right
interesting.
now.
And so, I mean, just for clarity, the work you're saying, so we were winning everything. What is that work that you do and you offer?
So predominantly we're social, creative and creators. So how we operate is we've got 3 areas of the company. We have our social creative agency. So that might help with the socials for like PepsiCo, and maybe it's, helping with influence marketing for people like Activision. So that is probably about 80% of our business is our social creative agency. We have a talent management arm. So we represent about 70 creators across the UK and US exclusively. And then we have a social publishing arm. So we work with creators and help them distribute, monetize, and strategize their content on different platforms. So we might work with the likes of PewDiePie or KSI and help with their Facebook strategy, their TikTok strategy, their Snapchat strategy. So normally those platforms, they leave dormant. We can help grow them as well. And also then that kind of helps the agency and we can cross-share knowledge and insights, etc. So they're the 3 areas of our business.
Just thinking about like the first few years or right at the beginning, just kind of going back a bit, sounds like over COVID when you kind of lost a bit of control over processes and your words, the quality of work might have suffered. Did it feel like those first couple of years where you're doing that with like 4 or 5 people, or right at the beginning, but with a massive company?
The first few years it was, because the first 2 years it was just me and Chris. So we actually didn't hire anyone. Just me and Chris.
For 2 years?
Yeah.
Could you have? And you decided not to?
We definitely and should have as well. I was running every campaign. It was
right.
So I was selling it and then delivering the campaigns. And it's just, I was just working long hours.
Right, the theme tune, sing the team.
Yeah, it was literally everything. Enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. And also I think that though helps because you then have experience of like the entire cycle of how a business should operate. So even when my campaign managers talk to me now, I'm like, no, this is how we can do it.
Yeah, exactly the same as me. Yeah.
So it's great. So that, and then we grew to like maybe 40 people from 2017 to 2020. And then we went from 40 to 140 in 2 years. So that is the big change. But that was, it was just winning a lot of work. And it didn't feel like we were out of control. But then a couple of things start to break and you're like, okay, that's not making sense. That's not making sense. And then you just have a couple of domino effects and you're like, okay, hang on, let's just stop. Like what is actually going on here? What's going on here? These resources lopsided. We're now winning bits of work that we probably weren't expecting at that point because we went from an influencer agency to a social creative agency.
Right.
So what type of work we were winning as well was very different. And then actually that changed the structure of what company you need.
Was that kind of demand led? They were like, can you do this extra stuff? And you were like, well, maybe if we kind of figure it out. Or was it more just like, you felt like you could, add value in these areas?
So we were influencer projects for a long time.
Yeah.
Then we started to do a gaming strategy for clients.
Okay.
So a really big niche for us in 2018 to 2020, 2021 was gaming strategy for people like KFC. So we worked with KFC and helped bring them into the gaming strategy. But that was across a multitude of things, whereas, we helped deliver a partnership with Activision. We built KFC Gaming on Twitter and TikTok. We built them an influencer strategy. We built them partnerships. It was full circle. But what we did really good for that is we built them a social handle to millions of followers of KFC Gaming to a real niche. Then we did that for Pizza Hut. We did that for a variety of brands. So then we was like, we're good at social. So then it was taking that social insight and being like, if we actually could deploy this knowledge of really targeting niche communities to then some of our brands, this could actually be a follow-on service. So then we rebranded and repositioned the business. And it also allowed us to win different types of clients, different types of work. Social work's retained. We can then start to predict the revenue. We can actually start to deliver great work. So then actually social was our in, but we still did influencers. And now a lot of that's brought together because socials and influencers really now sits hand in hand and now paid does as well. So it was just an extension of services that just felt quite natural for us.
And do you see a big difference in approach for if you're marketing a game or integrating brands into the world of gaming? How do you kind of approach those two different types of client, I guess? Yeah, very different. So, a lot of publishers, if you look at what they actually want to deploy, I think there was a recent article that 80% of them, see influencer marketing as kind of key and critical for their projects and campaigns. And then if you actually then look at, okay, where is that then spend being deployed? A lot of it is streaming. So a lot of it is still Twitch, TikTok, TikTok Live's now growing on a rapid basis as well. So with a lot of our publishers, it's about speaking to the streaming audience and the YouTube audience because that's where their audience lives. When it might be working with a KFC at that point who wanted to activate in gaming, a lot of work we were doing were on TikTok and it was on X and Twitch. So it was really looking at different platforms, and with use someone like KFC or Pizza Hut, we were using Twitter at the time, but to talk to communities, to interact with them, to do giveaways, to create humor, to just feel part of that community, and then run Discord servers and really feel part of that community as well. So it's definitely been very different. And now when we're working with people like Samsung or Gillette, there's a multitude of services. It might be a partnership with a publisher. So we've recently done the Gillette Forza partnership. So it might be just bringing that partnership together, but then we're utilizing creators to amplify that. We're utilizing the tech that we've got to amplify that. So it really comes a bit more full circle. Do you see kind of common mistakes where, I guess for brands integrating into gaming? Because you got those brands some that you mentioned there that have kind of been in the world of gaming for quite a long time. But others will be kind of looking at the surge in popularity. It's obviously taking much more of a central seat in planning, basically. But for those that haven't really dipped their toes, do you have any common mistakes or advice per se?
I think if you don't know gaming, you can really just look at it as like you look at gaming and go, we want to do gaming. And that's all they say. We compare gaming to sport. You wouldn't just say, we want to activate in sport.
Yeah.
You would say you want to activate in football or basketball. Whereas every game is a bit like sport. A League of Legends audience, very different to a FIFA audience, very different to a Dota audience. So when you're looking at each game, your strategy needs to be different depending on the game. So you can't really just treat gaming as a category and just go, this is our blanket approach. It needs to be really tailored to that game, because a League of Legends player might play on average 6 hours a day and be really hardcore and actually earns a good amount of money, higher spender. Whereas a FIFA audience could just be playing on a weekend or could just be playing a couple of games on a Friday night with their mates whilst drinking some beer. It's a really casual audience. So the way you talk to them needs to be two very different ways. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that brands are still doing, is when they're just looking at gaming, they're going, this is our strategy.
Yeah.
But it's strategy across every title. It's the same strategy. And it's not really generating the right results because you need to target it differently. So that's kind of the biggest advice that we give to a lot of these clients, is like, what's your audience target? Okay, now we need to really dig into the game and what game makes sense.
Yeah.
And now
how do you do that piece out of interest? How do you match kind of target audience with what a type of gamer is? Like, do you do your own kind of research insights around that, or like how would you profile them?
Yeah, we have a lot of data and insights that we do in the team. Everything for us starts with the data side. So what are you looking to do? What's your target? Okay, you want to target 25 to 32-year-olds in the UK and US. Okay, what's the audience that makes sense? Well, actually, RuneScape is a 20-year-old game and actually might make perfect sense, because that's now your age demographic that you need to look at. Yeah. I'm still playing, so I'm the audience. That's why I'm using it as an example. Whereas like these people who've grown up with a game is nostalgia, but actually your 25 to 32-year-old demographic who are earning okay money, that's actually what they're playing.
Yeah.
This is a perfect game audience to target.
Nice.
Okay, how do you tie in with, but then it's like, okay, that game is really community-led, so how do we really authentically speak to that community? And then that's where the strategy and creative piece comes into it. But yeah, a lot of it just starts with data. What's the game saying on the data? What's the average play time? How do they consume that? And then what's the strategy that comes from it? What's
RuneScape like these days? How's it changed? Because I used to play it a long time ago.
Which, old school?
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, old school is still the same, but just with some new updates.
And it's still active?
Oh yeah, mate. It's killing it. Fair play to Jagex. Like, I've got a lot of
time sink.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Jagex. I think they're also one of the best publishers of how they work with their community and creators. I always use them as an example of, like, if you're wanting to build an active community and an active creator base, Jagex are probably the best publisher out there, like, to learn from. And they've kept a game going for so long, and that game has predominantly been, yes, nostalgia, and yes, the game's good, but it's still been kept alive by all the streamers, content creators, and how they interact with their community and keep that going. So
I see that as like V1 of, digital collectibles like RuneScape, like old school, like the value of this like 3 pixels on a screen.
Yeah.
When you see it, it's just like that for me is like the beginning of like everything in crypto. Like it's just, it's mad. It's taken me back a bit.
No, they've done well.
Yeah. So, what's the role? Do you kind of work with Discord communities? Do you grow your creators' Discord communities actively, or like what's the kind of role of Discord amongst like other platforms? If there is a major one for you? Yeah,
probably 2 ways. There's some brands that we do run their Discords for them.
Okay.
So that might be end-to-end Discord management, creating the work, interacting with the community. Maybe there's sales on. How do we make that come to life? It's not a huge area of what we do, but it is an area. Probably the bigger area is how do we leverage creator communities on when we're working with brands. So if a lot of the time, even now when we're doing a campaign on Twitch or YouTube, a lot of times, right, you have supporting social posts. We would now say, actually, these supporting social posts need to be in the Discord because we're finding it better engagement than X or Instagram. So even when we're driving traffic to a stream or to a YouTube video, that's where we'll start to interact with the community a little bit more. So we aren't doing masses and masses, but it is an area that's probably one of the fastest growing for us now, and what we want to be focusing on a lot more. Discord and Reddit in particular. A lot of brands are scared of both platforms.
Yeah.
And actually the two of the fastest growing platforms that you need to embrace. So
yeah,
it's becoming a lot bigger of a focus for us.
Makes sense. I would agree with you, obviously. What's the, I guess going a little bit back to kind of the, entrepreneurial side of things. What is, if you could think of one, what is the kind of biggest mistake that you've made over the last like 9 years that you can think of?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Bit on the spot, I know.
No, that's fine. There's loads, but that's how you learn. I think we've had mistakes growing where it's just been grow without a sustainable growth strategy. So
what is a sustainable growth strategy?
More like we were growing, but sacrificing quality of work or reputation at the time, and we was like just chasing everything. I think we were very fortunate with the type of clients we were winning really early on, and actually probably took it for granted. And if I went backwards, and this just if I'm slightly more mature now, when we were like 23, 24 at that point, if we were winning people like Activision or Xbox and Ubisoft, who were some of the biggest, exciting publishers in the world, I think we took it for granted a little bit. And actually, if we put the right foundations and support in place and had worked with them for like 7, 8, 9 years, like really consistently, our partnership with them would have been like far greater. So I think but we would kind of like, okay, let's win some more clients. Let's win some more clients. Yeah. And I actually think we should have just reflected and sat and gone, let's do an amazing job for these 15 clients for the next 2 years. And then we'll just focus on growth. So I think that was maybe a mistake. And hiring has been so difficult. I think we've tried to sometimes step away from the day-to-day too quickly and bring in like, directors or C-suite we kind of like, you try and run this, you've got more experience, which hasn't worked out. And then we get back involved. And then sometimes we're too involved. So that's been a hard balance of trying to find... The
founder mode type thing.
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard. Just trying to find that balance of stepping away, but also not stepping away, because it's still your baby and you know the business better than anyone else anyway. So that's been a hard balance. So I'd say the growth and the hiring of leadership has been the two biggest challenges.
And what's the future like? What's the next like couple of years for you guys? What's the vision? Yeah,
learn from our mistakes and focus on doing great work for the current clients. I think that is generally one of our biggest focuses. We have an amazing client roster and creator roster. Really, just do incredible work, like award-winning work, build reputation, become known in the industry. Like the point of us doing a rebrand was to help our position into like what we are really good at, which is helping these brands advertise in new ways into this new generation of creators or new generation of marketing ways. So that is like what we know we're good at, is being disruptive, innovative, and like really standing out. So it's built about for us like really building our reputation into that. We want clients to be like, okay, we don't know how to target this audience. We need to speak to NewGen. And that's like a big focus for us. And trying to crack America as well. It's a hard market. And we've been there for a couple of years. So just trying to grow more stateside is quite a key focus for us. So hopefully nothing too insane, but just beautiful basics and getting America right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Have you seen any good examples recently of like great work that might be your own, but might not be in your own?
That's a great question, actually. Not really.
Yeah.
And that's actually probably quite telling. There's nothing being hugely in the gaming space anyway, like really revolutionary, really, that I've seen. I'm going like, oh, that was a super standout campaign. I think Supercell are always doing great work. They're really pushing the boundary of creator, celebrity, social, and they're always towing the line, but in a really good way. But not hugely. I think some of our great work has been probably not non-gaming. The work that we're doing for Pepsi has been up for a number of awards and been really disruptive with PepsiCo and areas such as that. But yeah, have you? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean this could be a great a great example of digital ad recall. Not being potentially up there. I haven't actually, and I've kind of put myself on the spot here.
Yeah, I flipped it there.
Yeah, that's good work.
But also that's an opportunity though, because if we both turn around and be like, there's not been truly anything like really stand out revolutionary, it also showcases that and probably more in the gaming market, people have obviously been a bit more nervous in the past couple of years. Been a lot of layoffs, changes, but also there's an opportunity. I think gaming as a whole in the past couple of years has kind of been a bit flat, and actually, you know, there's been nothing real stand out since like Fortnite.
I kind of agree with you, but and you also see you also see the same like Fortnite map kind of circulation, repetition. There seems to be, you know, like a lot of quite samey looking activations, and maybe that's just like a good entry point for brands just doing their first kind of thing because they kind of understand it. But yeah, I think there's definitely space, like, you know, where I think about what could be, you know, really unique and original is I mean, from our point of view, how you like mobilize a community, and how do you create content for a platform that doesn't have you know, a video player, for example. Discord is what I'm talking about. So that's kind of what the space that we're looking at kind of playing in, is how do you mobilize communities in like a really fun, exciting and original way. But, you know, we're working together next year on a project. So let's see if we can change that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Outside of NewGen, if you could start a business, it could be in anything. Money's no object. Time is endless, as far as you can imagine. What would that be?
That's quite easy, actually.
Yeah.
I would love to be in a position, and this is actually what I'll probably want to do in the future. I would love to buy businesses that I've struggled to modernize, digitalize, catch up with the world it is today. Sounds a bit brutal. Asset strip it.
Yeah.
And modernize them and really bring them to the new world.
Such as?
I don't know. I'm not going to name the couple of companies. I see them on the stock exchange. I'm like, these are poor companies. And a couple of them are in the gaming space. And I've looked at them and gone like, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
Sell this piece of tech. You know, you see the leadership on $2 million salaries, pound salaries. And actually, if you look behind the curtain, where the revenues come from. So I'd love to just like bring them into what is the modern world, the digital world, increase profits, flip it. That is genuinely what I'm interested in, but then across all industries as well. You know, there's only one person that I could properly, obviously not one person, but there's a guy in America who does it quite well, is buying like Radio Shack and things like that, of, you know, just people with like specific retail and then taking them online, modernizing them, increasing revenues, increasing profits, bringing them to the digital age. Maybe it's just selling keys, or, you know, just helping how the website flows. Someone like Zara, I buy from Zara. Great product. Website's crap. If you made that website so much more streamlined, easier to get for everything, they would do a lot better online, and they're doing well as a company. Poor example, but
it's
that's
legacy
what I'd like to do.
systems, isn't it? And when you get too big, you know, it's hard to change, right? Like,
yeah, and you start moving at slow pace. And I just think there's a lot of companies that were made, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s that are now in 2024, wherever, and now, and actually everything's online, everything's mobile. How people want to pay is a lot quicker, and a lot of them are. I'm sterilizing. I'm being a bit stereotypical here, but a lot of them are slightly older individuals who probably don't know how to keep up in 2024 and actually just need someone to come in and go, okay, this is how we need to do it. This is how mobile transactions need to work. This is mobile. This is how the website needs to flow. It needs to be this customer journey. And they'll see a lot of change. And there's been a lot of people who've struggled in the past few years, especially in retail. So that's what I'd like to do.
Very cool. And how would you go about, I mean, let's say that NewGen is not a part of your life. How would you go about, you know, making that happen? Would you sort of start by yourself and just go like,
I need a funding partner
again? Yeah.
No, I've you need a funding partner. You're not buying all that yourself.
Yeah.
And then you need a real close team around you. You know, someone who's really good at finance, someone who's really good at operations, who can go into a business and understand the operational side of it, who can just kind of
what would your skill set be? And I guess that's maybe your role at NewGen as well. What's your kind of specialism?
That's a great question. I think I'm good at identifying like efficiencies and operational inefficiencies, whether it's billabilities, whether it's departments overloaded or underloaded, and then ultimately like putting in the fixes to rectify that. I'm very problem, action, solution focused sometimes, and being self-critical of myself. sometimes lose sight of like a bigger picture in 3-4 years. So I'm like, these are the 50 actions we need to do to actually achieve X. It's definitely something I've been told many a times, because my preference would be to write a 50 things to do list, but like, you need to do this. And that would be quite suited to me, like going, you need to cut this cost, change this, and that will equal Y. So probably just getting all the insight, information, and then put it into an action plan and a strategic plan of how you'd implement that in 6 months.
Very cool.
What would you do?
Again, you've put me on the spot again. There's a few ideas, actually. I mean, one I've kind of thought about quite recently. It was actually my wife's idea, I have to say, but I really liked it. Is a running subscription. So, you know, actually on Cloud, like that company, they kind of had their own subscription where you like subscribe to a trainer and you just get a new one every month. It's like, okay, you know, kind of just have to have a new trainer every month. But like if you just aggregate like different partners, like as a runner, which is surging in popularity now.
Yep.
Do you know the Runner app?
Yeah,
like
I've seen it being
they're doing
promoted
really
a lot.
well. You get like training plans and it's all kind of, you have recommendations and everything like that. Long time coming. Like people need that. And obviously Strava as well. But they don't kind of cover off all the things that you need for running. Whether that's like shoes, entry, you get just bundle in like partners, whether that's shoes, supplements, entries to events, and then all just in one thing, just because running should be, or used to be, just put your trainers on and go, 50 years ago. That's kind of the attraction. But now everyone loves data, everyone loves the extra stuff, and it makes it more fun if you like have something new, you're more motivated. And so if you have like all these things kind of taken care of you, taken care of, I think, I would love that if you like pick and choose like a new shoe, different type of brand, like once or twice a year. That could be cool.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok or something where it's like runners 50 years ago, put a pair of trainers, just go out. Runners now, we need to do a zone 2 run at, this for an hour and at this heart rate.
I know, everything's like that now, isn't it? It's just
I say that whilst wearing the Whoop. It's
crazy.
Having the data attached to me right now. So
I know. It can be. Did you find your Whoop, like, do you love it all the time? Do you kind of sometimes think like it stresses you out?
It doesn't stress me out. I just go for a love-hate relationship because I just forget to charge it because I'm just so forgetful that. It's like beautiful, like just basics. But I love it for the sleep data.
Yeah.
I love the fact it can basically tell me when I'm getting ill before I know. And I've had that a couple of times where it's like, you have an elevated heart rate. I'm like, or elevated skin temperature. And I'm like,
feel okay.
Do I? And the next day I'm like, I've come down with a flu. So cool. I could have helped prevent that.
So you can prep it. You can get all the things in for where you're going to get ill.
And it really does showcase the implications of alcohol as well in terms of sleep, heart rate, and how you act. And I think that is quite telling. Even if you just had a few drinks, the impact on your recovery and sleep is quite important. And I've tried to change my life quite a lot this year in terms of how I'm separating work and physical aspects and mental and friends. I just sacrificed so much for the business for the first few years and everything else kind of just wasn't important. And now I'm just actually realizing only in the past couple of years that if I have a better balance, like my productivity, my output will be far better and actually it's more beneficial for me.
That's really, really interesting question because, and not to sound like you would say that, right? Because you did that work in the beginning. So now you feel like this is kind of devil's advocate a little bit. It's like, do you have to go through that period to then realize, to then be at a stage to sort of, have that luxury of being like, actually, no, it's more about balance. And now I need balance. And I guess, because also you started when you're 24 or so, right?
21. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a great time in some ways, great time to start a business, right? In terms of other things in life that come a little bit later, whether that's kids or whatever, or energy levels, I guess, sometimes. Then you also look at like founders that are, 40 plus, really experienced in their industry, have loads of contacts, that kind of thing. And I just find it really interesting to kind of think about, is there an optimum age? Probably not. It's sort of different for everyone. But do you think you benefited from those first few years being young and just going like completely hell for leather by the sounds of it, and then now you can sort of afford it? Or would you say if you were like, had a more balanced attitude now, right at the beginning, you would have done even better?
I think I should have been a bit more balanced because if you're just working 18 hours a day doesn't mean you're more productive. You're just sometimes just busy. And it was quite blurry in terms of work as well back then. So we had like a really small team, but we were really close with that team. Like we'd go out regularly with them. Friday nights, Saturday nights, we'd go out with them. And if I reflect back on that, there was a few real close relationships that I've built from that and still have today. But the majority of them aren't, naturally, if they've gone into part of the business and gone somewhere else. So if I think back to myself of like how many like Thursday nights or Friday nights or sometimes the weekends, I just kind of gave up to go out with work colleagues at that point instead of focusing maybe on a relationship or family or real close friendships. Going back, I'm like, I should have put more time and effort into that. And now I do. I'm a lot more mindful of it. So it was, but also, the sacrifice, like we worked silly hours, 18 hours a day the first couple of years. And that is definitely how we started more successful than some of our competition.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't change that. I'd probably change the middle bit where the business was growing and I was still doing the same amount of hours and I didn't need to. I just should have actually hide another layer. There's really simple things that I would change going back instead of flying in for a conference in the morning and flying back in the evening.
Yeah.
Just having an extra day as a holiday to rest up and recover instead of being this will sound maybe a bit poor, but like instead of always doing economy flights just to save some extra money, invest in the extra flight because I'm flying overnight and I need to sleep better because we've got a pitch the next day, and I'll be like, no, I'm taking economy to save 400 quid.
Yeah.
But that might have cost us a 300 grand pitch.
Yeah. So that leverage of feeling a little bit better is worth so much in potential kind of budget. Yeah.
I just have like a tight mindset. So I'm like, no, we're not spending that. Like I'm not doing it. So really simple things I would change, like taking more holidays, but working on those holidays, and instead of feeling like I had to be in the office. The first couple of years, I slept in the office 2 or 3 times a week. Like,
did you really?
Yeah, don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So simple things.
Did you kind of enjoy that at the time? Were you like just like insanely kind of motivated and just like loved it, or did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
But I was also then but in retrospect, I'm like, what did I achieve between the hours of 9 till 11 p.m. that I couldn't have just gone home and slept in a bed instead of sleeping on a beanbag?
Yeah.
Like, what in reality did I achieve at that point? Not much. So I would change it going back, but also I just loved it so much. I was like, what's the point in me going home? I may as well just sleep here and be ready for 8 a.m. the next day, and I just got a shower downstairs.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a weird one.
That's your 20s.
Yeah. I'm definitely a bit more older now. I'm being like, no, and now I flipped it where I organize my entire week on a Sunday, but the first thing I put in now is my exercise. Like before anything work, I put in this in my block for Peloton, swim, run, whatever. And then everything else now will fall around that. But that's the first thing now I block out, because I block my calendar out every 15 minutes of every day just so I can ensure I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, me too.
It's so much better. But it's working so far. But that's what I'd probably change. Appreciate you're in your second year.
Yeah. It depends how you define it, I guess. A few kind of evolutions to the model we're in now, I guess, where we were kind of managing communities, and then I was doing a few other things before that, like around COVID sort of thing. But yeah, really, 2 years or so in a current model. Yeah. So I do kind of sleep in the office because we're remote.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you with those, especially when you're talking about the, what to delegate, what not to, and what's, when and how you delegate responsibility to people who, and how you decide people are better than you at stuff, and how, and when you go, actually, like, I am best placed to kind of talk about this. That is a really hard, I don't think anyone's kind of mastered that, That's like Brian Chesky talking about founder mode, and his view is no one's ever more qualified than you. And then, but he's like contrarian, going against the old advice where a founder's job is to become obsolete. So that's two like completely extreme views, right?
Everyone's figuring it out, aren't they? That's what.
Sorry,
everyone's still figuring it out. Like, and that's what something took me back in business when we first started. And you look at these companies and you probably think, okay, they've got everything figured out. But when you actually start talking to them, like, okay, they've got a few more people and a few more zeros, but everyone's still got the same problems. They're just escalated times 100 to some extent.
You think you hire someone or you make a decision, you're like, that'll solve that problem. But you're making progress, but problems come with progress, but that's just the nature of it. I'm starting to learn to kind of just like, buckle into just forever problems.
Yeah, that's your job now, isn't it?
Like Elon Musk kind of said, it's like staring into the abyss and chewing glass. You're staring into the abyss because it's just like uncertain, chewing glass because you're working on the most difficult problems because other people have their own jobs, and so the most difficult problems are yours to solve.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty negative view on it. Like, I do quite enjoy it.
Yeah. How have you found the gaming market in the last 2 years? If you're obviously a couple of years in, you've probably also started the business in one of the most turbulent.
Well, sort of got told this, over time. There's a sort of like, by the end of last year, there was like, this has been the worst year in gaming for decades. It's only getting worse. 25% of people in gaming got laid off. I think I saw that stat. That was either this year or last year. I think that was this year.
I think this year's got worse than last year.
It's got worse, yeah. And in my head, you go like, well, we're still growing in the worst market. So if something good, if the market turns around, then that's great. So it kind of, part of it makes me feel, quite proud, and that we've managed to grow in what seems like a tricky climate. So, even kind of just like surviving, like a lot of it's just like sticking around startups, isn't it? Just, just forever onwards, making sure you're growing. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience over the last couple of years. Maybe it helps that we don't only do gaming, it's just predominantly, but I think bringing something unique to the market is always helps, because people are tired of the same old, and especially challenger kind of games or brands. Like we work with Off the Grid this year, who are kind of bringing something fresh. So they're always, clients like that are always looking to do something different, which kind of brings them to us, and they see the value of Discord and community. So I think in that sense, maybe that's probably helped us. I mean, that's definitely helped us, because it's much easier to have a conversation about something new and exciting. But yeah, that's kind of been my own experience of it, really. Yeah. But so if the market kind of turns in a really favourable way, then we should be doing even better. It should be nice.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting couple of years, for good and bad. I think it's, but yeah, we're seeing definitely a lot of other parties or agencies struggling, which is a shame to see. But it's also how you react to that as well, which I appreciate.
Yeah. So how have you found the last 2 years out of that 2 years out of the 9? Has it been like much more difficult?
I'm glad we changed out of gaming, or transitioned out of gaming.
Okay.
I think it would have been a lot more difficult if we didn't.
When you say that, sorry, how do you mean?
We were just gaming until maybe 2021, 2022. And then when we were coming to the end of COVID, we were a bit nervous of the future of the gaming industry, because there was no way it could just keep up the same level of hype. So we did transition on purpose, and went after some non-gaming clients. So we, changed our case studies, changed our location of our website a little bit, even changed like how we're marketing or PPC, so we could start to win non-gaming clients, and we did. So we quickly went from like 10% of our business to 55% of our business to non-gaming in the space of about a year, 18 months.
That's a massive shift, yeah.
Yeah, it worked. And I think it ruffled a bit of feathers internally when we told people like we're going to start transitioning, and a couple of people left because they wanted to just work for a gaming agency, which we could appreciate. I think now a lot of people are like, okay, we can understand why we made that transition. Because I think if we just stayed in gaming, it would have been a lot more difficult for us. There was less publisher work, and there's been less companies wanting to get into gaming or experiment in gaming, because either they've experimented before, or just because budgets are a bit tighter and gaming's a bit experiential, they can't really do experiential budgets. Like with KFC and Pizza Hut, it's a bit more experiential. Now they can't really justify that. So it's, whilst our business has kind of like maintained and slightly grew, if we just did gaming, we would have had to reduce headcount quite considerably probably, and we'd have been a smaller business.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting you say that, because like anecdotally you kind of hear, and I think there's maybe two sides of it. You sit on the kind of creative influencer side of things in gaming, I'm talking about. But then you look at like media agencies and that side of thing, like gaming is the new.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the new like exciting opportunity, and it's still incredibly new for those media agencies. You know, you have some media agencies, not all, that have 3 or 4 people dedicated to gaming and kind of evangelizing. And when there's potentially an area of a media brief or wider 2025 marketing brief that might, you know, have gaming or might be relevant, they're kind of brought into it. It's the same as, you know, you see like these cycles, right? You see influencer, and then going back a bit further, mobile. You had these like heads of mobiles and media agencies, and then influencer. Gaming kind of feels like that next one, and it tends to hit a little bit later, you know. And so there's maybe this kind of cycle. So it's quite interesting to hear you say that for your particular like work and being that early with that kind of thing, it's you know, you're glad you're kind of.
Well, for us, it just gives us more peace of mind and more security by broad. But also, we've taken what we're really good at in gaming, which is like the communities aspect, but then redeploying it elsewhere as well. So that's allowed us to niche out in terms of sub communities, but leveraging that gaming aspect. So that's been really powerful. But yeah, I think also the market's also just more competitive. There's a low barrier to entry, and there's a lot of agencies out there. So maybe it's also just a transition of the markets and agencies and everything else as well. But yeah, don't get me wrong, 45% of our business is still gaming, and I think the work we do is great, obviously. But it's just not everything that we do. But it's why we've tried to branch out, because now we can bring the publishers with the brands and help them partner and commercialize, and we can offer a lot more value as well. So it's just been expanding our services too.
Makes sense. Cool. Well, it's been awesome chatting. I'm sure we'll chat again soon. And yeah, thanks for coming on Gamechangers. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No worries.